once again today to actually deliver a stream of Orb on the Moons of the Earth, the anime series. Yeah, sure, I'm good to go. Sometimes I feel like I'm a bit too quiet. Anyway, today we actually are watching episode 13 of Orb on the Moons of the Earth, the anime series. With us last time, we saw Big Fiction personified, I must say. Like, last week's episode was just really fucking good. Like, it's just like, it kind of makes you go, God damn, this series is just like the best. It's just that there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just pretty fucking good. And seeing Akotsu's actual development as well was just beautiful to see. Like his entire character arc is just absolutely brilliant. Him to go from being completely like closed off and actually having not being able to look up at the sky to actually then proclaiming that Hideo is his faith as well and actually want to protect the world as well. I don't know. It makes you tear up. Makes you just go, man, this guy is just a fucking best. So yeah, I mean, I'll say I can't wait to see what happens next, but clearly we're in a fight, so I don't want to see what happens next. So I guess we'll see what happens next, but I ain't looking forward to it. I don't want anything bad happen to my boy. All right, he's a cool dude. I like him. I like him a lot. Right, it's actually put on Twitch. Actually gone live. Right, put it there. Streaming. Come by and get comfy as we watch some more Orb. And with that, we're good to go. Right, let me move Twitch to the other tab. Let me put this back to normal. Let me remember which one it is for the timer. Cool, so I have to sometimes remember. Right, let's get a show right. Let's actually start this thing in 3, 2, 1. Let's start this thing absolutely now. Forgot about the subtitles. It's just like, wait a minute, my Japanese isn't that good. My Japanese ain't that great just yet. Bro, lock the fuck in though. Holy shit. I do actually kind of like that. This is actually the first time he's actually, gone up against someone who's actually fighting as well in a different kind of way. I love how Koji's just like, oh, arrows. He doesn't really give a shit at all. Eh, fuck it, I guess. So I'm guessing we might have an episode next week. I'm guessing. There's a lot of a lot of the series are on hiatus until January, but I think this one's got one episode in it before it gets a break. But yeah, I mean, again, as I've been saying for this whole entire stream series, like what this show accomplishes in such a short space of time is like monumental in a way, because you have an entire character arc in the space of maybe just about 8 episodes, and it feels organic. It doesn't really feel like it's just being rushed through. Every single moment, every single choice, it makes sense to the character. If he feels like a living, breathing person, it doesn't really feel like a character in an anime series or a manga series that you sort of get in other series. like in other series, you sort of kind of get to the point you kind of like, okay, well, that character does that thing because of this thing. It's always predetermined in the way the story is told. But I kind of feel like the way Bedeni and Okozi actually are, their characters develop as they start to learn things. It feels more real in that kind of way, if you get what I mean. They don't really feel like characters, they feel like people. It's what I kind of like about this show as well. Like you're not really watching characters, you're watching people grow. You're watching people learn. You're watching people do things. And it's actually really fascinating to see, because they could do a whole 50, 100 episode anime series with just Okozi and Badani doing random shit. I would never get bored because it's just so fun to actually kind of like what's the word? Just be with. That's the one I was looking. That's the one I was looking for. It's like it's in there somewhere. This, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was also foreshadowed in the opening as well. I kind of feel like that's a really cool design for a building, but it's also fucking terrifying. Like, imagine if that actually was like, a real place. And don't get me wrong, they did kind of do that in real life at one point. They did actually. Well, There's a story about them building a tower. It's called Tower of Babylon. It's how they reached heaven, but I think God smited it down. If I'm not mistaken, is how the story goes. So, bro, what the fuck is going on here, bro? what I kind of believe with Akotti's character as well, the one thing that I didn't know was like before this point, everything with Akotti's character has always been told to him. Like in essence, he's meant to believe that Earth is lowly in comparison to heaven, and then the only thing you're meant to do is get to heaven. But then when he actually starts to kind of grow accustomed to heliocentrism and actually start to actually it become his faith, I felt it's the first time he's ever himself pursued something. If that makes sense, it's the first time something's ever driven him to do something. Like he's driven himself to do it. Also, I kind of feel like Tsuda Ken's like the most perfect Nowak as well. I can't think of anyone else to actually voice him at this point. He's just too perfect. He gets his mannerisms down to a T. It's like the most impressive thing I've seen all year when it comes to voice acting. God, he's so fucking good. Holy shit, what the fuck? He's so fucking good. My goat. How's he this fucking good at voice acting? My god. I do kind of I know we kind of make the joke that Nowak is a dick. But I do find his character fascinating because he's a person who just doesn't understand why everyone goes against God. It's one of those things. It is from his perspective. There is some credence to why would anyone do that when God gives you so many things. Like, yeah, don't be wrong. The way he goes about it does sort of counteract the entire meaning behind his philosophy, but it's still one of those things that he just doesn't understand it. And it's one of those things that, yeah, why if God's given you all these things, why would you go against it? But there is more to it, essentially. I sort of think that's what this show also kind of tells us. Because it's not as if these characters go against their teaching because it's just like one day they wake up like fuck it, you know what, I'm gonna do it. No, there's a reason behind it, and I kind of like how Noak's trying to figure out why would anyone do this. Like, why would anyone become a heretic just for an ideal when there's so much that he can give you. I just have a Bedeni's just like just nonchalant about everything. He's so cool. I know I say it quite often, but he's very cool. God damn. Dude just straight just like, yeah, this is like how we just do shit here. I'm just like, bro, that's kind of fucked up, ain't it? Again, it's sort of because it's this whole entire idea, like the church ain't good, bro. But what I kind of like about how Tsuda Ken voices Nowak, because Nowak's kind of like he doesn't give a shit. Like he has that kind of perspective, doesn't he? He just doesn't care. And but he also hides underneath that, that anger and annoyance as well. Like it's kind of stinged with that annoyance, and I love how he sort of like brings that to life. There is that whole idea that he doesn't care, but you can tell how pissed off he is beneath it, and it's sort of showing through his mannerisms. Very effective jump cut as well, actually. I love that moment in the manga as well because you could tell, like the growth in Medani's character as well, like how he went from not really caring about anyone else to actually now protecting Jalenta as well. I thought it was a really effective way to actually, like a very subtle way to say that he actually cares. He did always say that you would never get rid of them, though. He always did say it. And bro's kind of there, like, holy shit! Actually, wait a minute. God, he's so good. Oh fuck, he's so good. Uh-oh. That's not good. That's not good at all. But yeah, I mean, like I said during the stream, I just I and I mean, if you've watched my channel for like 5 minutes, you know how much I love Tsuda Ken as a voice actor because he's brilliant. He's like when they say like the goat of voice actors, he pretty much is at this point. He's just goddamn brilliant at every single thing he does. But it's just like it's the way he does in theory, like put across the annoyance that Novak actually feels towards like Badeni and Okoze. I love how it's tinged within the fact he doesn't really have any emotion. He's just completely stone faced the entire time. Like he's even more fearful because of that, because as you always do know, a person you can't read is even more scary than a person you can read. So you can't really ever tell, technically speaking, how Novak actually is feeling at any given point, because he doesn't really ever like emote anything. The only time he ever emoted anything really was when he was introduced by Jolenta. That's probably the only time I've ever seen that man like show an emotion other than completely stone faced. But every other single time, he's always been just the same. So you have to actually kind of listen to his mannerisms, listen to the way he inflicts his words to actually kind of get that. And Suda Ken brilliantly brings that to life. Like it's absolutely incredible how he does it. Like you could tell the emotions that he's in just from the way he's actually the way Suda Ken actually voices him. It's one of those things I just don't see it very often. And I mean, I like I say, I know I glaze the man a lot because he's my favorite voice actor in the business. But but it's one of those things like the glaze isn't unwarranted. He's just that goddamn good. Like it's just he's exquisite at what he does. And this episode actually kind of proved that because this episode really was him, really, when you think about it. It really was him, and actually him trying to kind of come to terms with why anyone would do this. Because as we said during the stream, from his perspective, it sort of makes sense. Why would anyone ever go against God when God gives you all these things? Like, you just have to keep to the word of the God and actually keep going. Why would you ever want to go against that? And it's one of those things that you would understand why he's annoyed, because like I said, God is giving you everything. Why would you ever kind of say anything other than okay, well I might as well just keep going with it. So you actually kind of get why he's annoyed. But then what sort of kind of counteracts that counteract is the actual way he goes about it, because he doesn't really ever like speak, so to speak, to anyone. He doesn't really ever kind of like rationalize why would anyone do this. He sort of he sort of tries to get his message across through violence and through fear. We saw it with the way he was explaining what he was going to do. The whole entire scene really sort of proved like that he doesn't really kind of have that level of compassion that he would otherwise understand why they would do that. He just sort of kind of goes gun ho and actually sort of instills fear into the people to actually then go back to to actually then go back to how they were originally, actually follow God in a way, or worse, I guess, in certain cases. And it's one of those things I do find that fascinating because, again, it's one of those things like it's we've seen it for its whole entire series, especially with Cos's character, like what God gives to the people. And it's that whole entire idea that it sort of becomes a delusion in a way, like the idea of like believing that God gives you all these things and God will give you all these things and God's giving you all these things. Why would you ever go against it? And it sort of got to the point that it sort of clouds their judgment to a very scary degree. I mean, Akosi's character kind of did have that with the way that he was explaining heaven. It never really ever felt like he was explaining it in a way that felt genuine. It felt more like like someone had a gun to his head and then said, God's this great thing, isn't he? Like it's brilliant, and actually everything like that. And also, heaven's amazing. It never really felt like a genuine like emotion, so to speak. And the same thing kind of applies with Noak's character as well. Noak kind of has that idea as well, that the way he's kind of deluding himself. He's what he's doing is the word of the what he's doing is good because he's actually explaining the heretics from this world. But the way he goes about it is he's deluding himself to the point that he doesn't really believe that he's doing anything wrong. Like he's only doing it for the sake of God in that way. And it's kind of scary, like a person's gotten to that point that he just doesn't give a shit. And again, it's brilliantly told for this whole entire series. Like the idea of like how he's just sort of gotten to that point of no return, because we saw it like the way that he's when he was explaining and he had the light behind him. The light's meant to be this serene thing, but the way he's explaining it is completely different. It's completely subverting that meaning. And I just love this series as well for doing that because it's always constantly subverting everything that you're meant to know about meanings behind certain things. And yeah, I mean, besides that whole entire idea as well, Bedeni's amazing in this episode as well. Like Bedeni's character was great in this episode because again, you could tell for his micro sections in the episode as well that he's slowly starting to care about those around him. Like he's protecting Jolenta as well. It's one of those things that beforehand, in way prior episodes, the way it's not as if he didn't care, but he didn't really kind of have that compassion either. He's not stone faced like Novak is, but he's kind of like he's very recluse in that kind of emotion. And to actually see him outright protect people as well is sort of goes to show you how much he actually has grown in this arc as well. So it's not just because his character's grown, it's actually Bedeni as well. And I actually really respect the show for actually doing that as well, for actually growing both characters through that time we've sharing with them. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the way the episode ends doesn't really kind of give us very much hope for what happens next week's episode. But at the same time, I can't wait to actually see how this arc ends because this arc is just it's one of those arcs that will go down like in history as one of the best arcs because it's just that goddamn good, honestly. Like I mean I always say like there's certain arcs that you just don't forget about. Like with me it was the Black Rose saga in Utena. In Attack on Titan is the one with it was the one after the end of season 3. Like it's those arcs you don't forget. I feel like this is one of those arcs as well. You just don't ever forget stuff like this because it's just that goddamn brilliant that it sort of just sticks with you. And the characters as well are just that goddamn good. So yeah, I'm gonna lie down for a long while and actually just be like, man, we're gonna probably be on a break next week, I think, as well, because this will probably be the second to last episode of this year. So I'm guessing possibly after next week's episode, they will probably go on a break, and actually then we'll see the next arc, which is the last three volumes, I think, of the series. So I actually then which will then see what happens then. I actually can't wait to see that arc animated as well, because like I always say with this show, it just keeps getting better. This isn't even the best part. It just keeps getting better. So I actually just can't wait to see the next part animated. So yes, that is me done for today. So as always, if you actually have enjoyed this entire stream as a whole on Twitch, and as always, do the follow on Twitch. It does help quite a bit. Actually, will then see these streams live. If you have then enjoyed this whole entire stream as a whole on YouTube as well, and then as always, do leave a like. It does help quite a bit. Leave a sub as well. Both do help quite a lot. Actually, have then enjoyed this whole entire stream as a whole on YouTube. As always, then do a follow on Twitter as well. Helps quite a bit. Also, actually, will then know when the streams are live and any other streams I may do as well. So yes, until next week, episode 14, I think, of Orb on the Movements of the Earth. I'll see you guys then. Bye for now.